welcome to a new interview with me. With me today is she wears so many hats. It's the author, editor, blogger, publisher, podcaster, cosplayer, um, Instagrammer as well, which is a big part of you. Elizabeth Suggs, thanks for coming on and speaking to me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, I just a long list of things, but it sounds like a lot of different crazy things, but they all kind of connect into books. So
Yes.
it all makes sense. There is a focus.
Well, books
Uh,
and you, you're there too.
yeah,
So.
books and me.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
definitely. Yeah.
definitely is. So the first thing, the first place I kind of came across you was on Instagram, actually, which is
Mhm.
for someone like me who's I'd say I'm a fair bit older than you. Instagram is kind of this scary kind of thing. What I try to do a bit of, but like I know that it's really big for books, and
Yes. Like,
obviously, yeah. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how, like, I mean, you're very active on Instagram in particular,
yeah.
and maybe kind of talk to us a little bit about that and how all these many different things that you do, and how you actually manage to fit it all into your day as well. Like, I'd like to know that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's great. So, I actually, when I first started writing, I didn't really, you kind of just start like falling in love with it and then getting into social media. But once I did get into social media, that was right after publishing Collective Darkness, and that kind of just kind of we just I had help like with my colleague, so I co-own Collective Tales Publishing with Jonathan Reddock, and so we just together we just like went and just put all like we're like we don't have a lot of money for marketing, so let's see what we can do. So we just went into social media, and honestly it took off. Like Jonathan's had some creative ideas, like we worked together all the time. And so like answer your question on how I get all these things done. So Jonathan and I, when we decide to, like, when we're working together, we work Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, and we'll just like devote that to either like editing or doing stuff on Instagram. Like we'll create like videos. I mean, he and I do videos on our own as well, but having that set time and having someone kind of being like, you have to do this it definitely pushes me. Like I don't need to be pushed to do a lot of things, but it's funny, like with the like Bookstagram, that's fun. Like I love book reviews, I love doing all that stuff. Like it doesn't take very much to get that, and I love doing the videos, I love cosplaying. But having someone be like, okay, well, we need to do this, like we have a new book that we want to get out, let's do this. Or if I have an idea, I can be like, oh, let's how I can how can we make this a thing. Like actually just the other day, and you'll start seeing the videos slowly trickle in, and I'm like still sore, but I put on I put on Spider Girl outfit, and went to this, like, it's more like a children's obstacle course. But I mean, it's like for older kids and also people like me apparently. But so Jonathan's recording me while I like do all these like obstacles, both with the mask on, which it's kind of hard to see with the mask, and then without it. And so I'm like, I kind of did it slow, like just because I know like I had to like climb over this thing, and I was a little scared because the spider outfit doesn't have like, I mean, who would have thought the spider outfit would make your hands really slippery? You'd think it'd be like more
The
tactile
opposite.
because it's a
Yeah,
spider.
exactly. But, yeah.
But it is not. It is not. And so I'm just like running it. I think I did this in like an hour, sorry, in a minute and 30 seconds. And that was, yeah, it sounds fast, but I feel like I was going really slow. But we'll see. You'll see it. And but the reason why I do all that stuff is it helps with other authors. Like I've cosplayed for authors. Like there was one lady who specifically asked me to do her cover, cosplay as her cover, and so she had like the cover had like a typewriter on her head, and she had like darker hair. So I just like and it was like sepia tone. So I like just did all of that. And so yeah, I try to cosplay as characters from books, as like if it's not from a book, maybe it's in the same genre.
Mhm.
Like I did a book reading just on Wednesday, and it was there was like poems, and there was also like the old, dang it, I forget his name, but it was Nathaniel Hawthorne's story about Salem witches,
Okay. Yeah.
and so I ended up being at Sabrina. And like, yeah, it's not really, I mean, she's a witch, but it's like, you wouldn't think that in the same way.
Yeah.
And so I just read it like that, just bringing them in. But to answer your question, the best way and the only way that I'm able to get things done is that, one, like, it's both my company editing me, and then the one I co-own, Collective Tales Publishing. Those are both like, that's my day job. Like, I don't, that's my like business. So it does give me room to do a lot of things, but also scheduling. I'm like slightly OCD about that. Like, I write every morning and I try to write in the evening, and which I'm not always successful. And then I'll do like cosplaying, during the day with working hours, and reading during working hours. So, but it's always like at specific times.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's how I'm successful about it. I could do
Yeah.
more, but
Yeah, I
try
mean,
not.
it's so like when you say it all like that, it sounds so like this is still lots of stuff that you do. It seems organized, but it's still. I'm still trying to think of like what had happened if I had gone to the park with my son and saw someone running around dressed as Spider Gwen. I'd be just
Yeah,
like,
it was.
yeah,
It was in public, and I was actually so we went because Jonathan had his kids, and so he brought his kids, and they loved it that I was in the Spider Gwen outfit, and also these other little kids came, and it was hilarious because like at first I forgot that I was in the costume, and then they came up and they're like, Spider Girl, and they were all like, we love you. And I'm like, wow, I'm a celebrity right now.
yeah.
Like, this is,
Like charge for photos while you're there and everything. It must be
I
weird in
know,
America because like obviously because they do so much filming over there for movies. Like
right?
people are like, are they, is this a Marvel film going on? But obviously over here, people be like, what is going on? Like, what is
Yeah, well,
happening?
especially, yeah, and like especially in Utah. So it's a little fun fact. It is actually very, very expensive to film in Los Angeles. Like the
Hmm.
taxes are like astronomical, and
Mhm.
so you don't get, at least nowadays. So you don't get a lot of filming. Like, yeah, you'll get some things filmed there still, but like movies and like other specific things or indie stuff, you might get it more in like places like Utah. Like a lot of things have actually been filmed in Utah or in Canada, or like just like surrounding areas. So yeah, yeah. I mean, we just had an iPhone, so we didn't look that professional, but
You can
that still,
film,
maybe it crossed their mind. Yeah,
yeah, you can make films on an iPhone these days. So yeah,
that
yeah,
is very true.
that's true.
Didn't that there was one movie that came out on Netflix during COVID, like
Hmm.
during like 2020, when it was it was all done on an iPhone, I think.
Yeah, it was.
I haven't seen it.
Is it Upgrade? I think it was. When that was
Yeah,
it called Upgrade or something? I think it was the guy that wrote Saw, the original Saw film. I think there was who did
oh
it.
really?
Yeah, I
That's
think so.
cool.
But
Yeah, I'll
yeah,
have to check it out. I just
crazy.
heard about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it that got you into writing in the first place? Because obviously,
Writing?
yeah, because everything that you do comes back into that creative aspect.
Yeah.
Books, especially, even like as you say with your cosplay and everything, it comes back into that love of writing. So what was it that got you into reading originally, and then was okay? I want to do writing as well.
Well, so when I was this is like, so when I was 5, I like, when it was like in kindergarten, it might have been like near the ending of kindergarten, but we were like making these like little pictures with sentences, and I feel like the teacher was helping me write. Someone was helping me write, but I remember I was like writing, and I was like, this is the funnest thing in the whole world. And so I made this like series of this lady named Sparkle Teeth. She was in 6th grade, so she was much more mature,
Okay.
and she had sparkly teeth. And
Of
and
course.
because my mom would tell me to brush my teeth, so I'd do the sparkly teeth. And yeah, so just I was more informal about it, just kind of doing it then. And I wrote a chapter book, which, I mean, it was like terrible format. Like, this is 5th grade at one point, and it was like this evil magic book, and they put it in the library, which I thought was really cool. like in the elementary library, and it just kind of going there, like it just continued on, and I never really thought of it as a business or like as an actual like revenue stream, because I mean it is kind of it's very hard to make money off of this stuff.
Yeah.
um and so I've always kind of like pushed myself, or beginning, like I got two bachelor's degrees because I couldn't decide what I wanted to do, but the first one was in journalism, and I really loved that, but it was it was it was very stressful. I still like that aspect. Like I'm working on a book for my grandpa, and I'm doing a lot of investigative journalism, quite honestly. Like it's
That's,
intense how I'm like going through all that stuff.
mhm.
And then the second one was psychology, but I decided not to do that because writing would always be second, or writing would always be first and psychology would be second.
Yeah.
So yeah, just been going, just moving forward, because I'm just like, I need to do writing. This is the thing I need to do. And yeah, I'm gonna go get a master's in creative writing to be a teacher. And
Oh,
so
just because you haven't got enough things to do, you want to do
nope,
even
yeah,
more things.
exactly.
It's funny about the journalism aspect because I
Yeah,
actually, that was the thing that I was doing an interview last night and it came
yeah.
up. I that was what I was originally wanted to do a very long time ago when I was
Nice.
in college, and that was kind of what I was doing. But I also was like, I kind of want to be a history teacher as well. So I was like,
Yeah.
I'll do journalism and history and then see which one. And obviously, I ended up doing neither of them. But I think like that kind of thing helps with research when you're writing about something.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and it was funny. I was hosting a panel for a convention a few weeks ago. It was about
Cool.
grimdark versus dark fantasy. What is the
Yeah.
difference? And every single person that was on the panel was like, "Yeah, I did history at school, or I did history at this at college." And it's like we didn't do anything with it, but it's really helpful when it comes to writing, which I can
Yeah.
imagine.
Well, I mean, oh, sorry. Yeah. I was just going to say with history, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, especially when you want to create your own worlds or like have some kind of historical aspect, like you
Mhm.
need that. I think that's so important.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I suppose like the psychology aspect of it helps as well. Like to get into
Yeah.
thinking about what I mean. What is your writing process like? You know, is it do you
Mhm.
work on the story first, or do you work on the characters first, or is it kind of just or do you plan, or do you not plan at all? Do you see what happens as you're writing?
Well, I actually do both. And so I originally just started with like, you get an idea and then you just go for it. You're like,
Mhm.
I was very much a pantser, or a discovery writer, as you could say, like just get through that. But I eventually kind of evolved a little bit more to getting, or not, well, evolved maybe the wrong word, but just kind of changed a little bit to have more plan, because I wouldn't finish books or I wouldn't finish stories because I'd lose momentum.
Mhm.
But so I do like a mix for most of my things, for a lot of my fiction. But the book about my grandpa I had mentioned earlier, so it's a biography. I want it to be, I want to be a interesting, but it will be a biography, and it
Yeah.
really needs to have a lot of the historical accuracy. It needs to be very accurate, and it needs to, like, I want to be fact checking everything all the time. And but with that, I cannot just like go with my inspiration or my momentum. I have to plan everything. And it's actually really enjoyable. Like I like the inspiration, I like the momentum, but I think having everything planned out, knowing exactly where you're going to go, like, yeah, you have a little wiggle room here and there, but knowing each plot point, it makes, I know I'm going to get this done much more quickly than any other book, that's like any other novel, I feel like. Because if you discovery slash plan right, or even just straight discovery your like novel or your story, even if you do finish it, you have to go through so many rounds of like edits and changes and adding in foreshadowing because you didn't plan for this one thing. And it
Mhm.
just becomes, at least for me, it's a very long process.
Mhm.
But planning everything out, it's like, oh yes, this is, you can do it in a few like edits a lot. But yeah, so both.
Yeah, both is a
Yeah.
like I think I started off as a pantser, or as you say, discovery writer, which is the polite way of saying it.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah. Right.
yeah, so it's like I'm a discovery writer. But the more I kind of started doing it, like I have really. I have really, really bad OCD in general.
Yeah.
But like with my writing, when I first started, it was like, oh, I can just make this up. It's fine. I don't have to plan it. But then my OCD started to creep in. It's like, no, you must know all of these things. You must know where this
Yeah.
person lives. You must know what they like to eat every day. And it's like, oh no, stop, brains. Just let me stop for a second and just let me have fun. Right?
Yeah.
But it is good as well because I know you've read my Dead Man Walking, and that one I pretty much
Yes.
that was pretty much pantsed, I'd say, pretty much from start to finish. But
Really?
then, yeah, it was. But then the sequel, which is
That's
out
awesome.
later on in the year, that was very much planned. So it was like, and when I kind of look at the difference between the two of them, I can see the difference, like that of how they were
Wow.
written. So you have Collective Darkness with your publishing
Yeah.
house, which is a
Yeah.
great anthology, and it's done really well. I think just from looking from the outside looking in, I mean, it's got great reviews. I was looking at it today from the Amazon.co.uk store, and it's still around the top 100, even though it's been out since September. So it's been doing really, really well
Wow.
for you. So what is like,
Thanks. Yeah.
yeah? So that's what would you think was the successes from that? How did you get it to be so successful, and what have you learned from it as a publisher of anthologies?
Well, that is it. It's the one thing about anthologies that I really love is that so assuming everyone wants to have it be just as successful, because I've been on other anthologies where people don't really care that much about advertising, but it's all about if you can get everyone together and even just talk with like their friends, their family, or just occasionally just remind people about it. I think that really helps. And then like with what Jonathan and I do on Instagram, it's, we talk with people. When I do book reviews, like maybe we'll do a book swap and then we can both do reviews. And I think that really helps. Like both of them are honest, like, and that sometimes creates some iffy relationships because I try to be as honest as possible because I want to keep my integrity. But it causes Jonathan like the most stress because he's like, oh no, you don't like this or something. And it's like, well, I mean, I have to do the review.
Yeah.
But yeah, like talking with people, being friends with people, and then just, letting people know without being annoying about it. Cause I know there are like, I mean, you tell people about it, but you don't have to constantly, message them and say, hey, buy my book, having that balance is really important. And, because it's COVID, a lot of it has had to happen on Instagram and online and, Amazon and the website. But soon, hopefully, I want to like Jonathan, me, and Alex, like one of our authors, and then maybe some of these others will get on, like actually start selling in person. That would be really cool. Like go to parks, because then you're in person, they buy, and then hopefully if you know they like it enough, they'll do a review. So just doing reviews, I think, is the most important thing, and just letting people, just remind people without being annoying. I hope I'm not annoying. Maybe I'm annoying on Instagram, but you know have a balance. Hopefully, remind them of Collective Darkness or some other book, and then do like a review or something. Get like a balance, and then yeah,
Yeah. How excited! I mean,
that's the secret.
yeah, that's the secret. Everyone knows the secret now. Everyone's going to do it.
Yeah. Dang it.
Like, sort of seeing, like getting to know you better over the while and seeing what you do, I'd say you're very excited to get that face to face, in person things, not just for your own publishing, but for yourself as well, for your own work that's coming up. So, what like I'm sure you're already planning for this. I'm sure you're planning something quite. Yes, yes, I am planning. So what is it? What's next
Always.
for you? What's next for you as Elizabeth Suggs, the author? What is coming next for you?
So in for books, I mean, with that's like Collective Fantasy and Deluxe Darkness. Those are two big ones. Like with the Collective Tales Publishing that I'm going to be part of. That I'm really excited. And then so that's that. I am doing my biography for my grandpa, but that might take a while. And then all the research. And then I do have another book that is also, I'm slowly going through that. So with that, and then I guess the other big thing other than like going to conferences and selling, is when I get my master's, I'll be going to Swansea. So that's going to be really
Oh,
exciting.
Swansea. Oh, very in
Yeah.
the
So,
that's very good.
yeah, it'll be, it's in September. So as long as my visa goes through and everything, then
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I know
But
Swansea quite well. I spent quite a bit of time in South Wales and North Wales and Wales in
that's awesome.
general. But yeah, Swansea's
Yeah.
great. It's in a great place because it's so close to Cardiff as well, and then you can just get
Yeah.
to like Bath and Bristol very easily as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a great place. That was very exciting. That'd be great.
I am very excited. It's my grandpa actually went to school there.
Oh,
And that's
really?
like,
Yeah.
it's like part of like, yeah, it's like he knows people there. Like apparently we have family, like, I mean, most of my family is like, my grandpa was born here, but my mom was born in Wales because they lived there for a while. And then my great grandpa was born in Wales. And so it's like I have a lot of roots there, and I want to find them. I want to uncover them somehow. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but we'll get that investigative journalism out. We'll
Yeah,
see what
exactly.
happens.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And there's a book festival that's going to be on in November in Brighton.
Oh, cool. Yeah, then
Brighton.
I'll be there.
Yeah, I'll let you. I'll get you the details because it's
Yeah,
run by
thanks.
a publisher in the UK called Red Cake Publishing.
Red Cape. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so they planned to do it last year, obviously, and it was obviously didn't happen. And
Yeah.
then like
Yeah.
we'll have it in March. So I've got a couple of little questions for you. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, what is the best? Because we all get it. Like we all get. I think one of the most scary things as a writer is criticism. The first
Yeah.
time that you get it right, and also just showing
Definitely.
people your work for the first time. It's like people are gonna hate this or whatever. But what is the best criticism that you've ever received about your work?
The best criticism. So it would probably be, let's see. Uh, Probably when I was working on this one novel. So I'm still in the process of working on it, but it was it was a kind of an older novel. So it had some of my, it's like some older writing. So like I progressed and I don't want to go back and do all this stuff. But I think the best critique I had on that was that the character, she, it's so strange because most of my stories are very emotional, very like in that person's head. But something happened. Like, so I was trying to make like an android, and I was trying to make her not have feeling, like I was trying to make her grow into the feeling, but it wasn't working. And so there, and I had actually stepped away from what I, truly love about my own writing. And so it was pretty much going like, what do you need to put emotion in. There's no, this person's like a blank slate. And it just made me think like, it is good to experiment. It's always good to experiment, but it's good to come back to your roots, and it's good to be sure of your own self. Like, because I think I was also kind of unsure, like maybe there's too much emotion. Because I'm also, so I'm, I write horror. I like writing fantasy, biography now with my grandpa, but I also like writing romance. Like I love adding romance into all my stories. Um, and you get people like make fun of like romance writers in that sense of like, oh, they're so emotional, or like, oh, it's so lovey-dovey, and it's great for that genre. But I think because I was like, no, I don't have to be emotional, I think that like it made me lose myself for a second. So it's
Okay.
almost like you should be confident in your writing. Like obviously I think knowing that people are criticizing you or like being critical for like reasons like that. I don't think I've ever had anyone say anything's like straight up horrible. They've always said it in a nice way. I don't know why. Like I've tried to push people to be like, okay, because I do a lot of critique and feedback groups. I'm like, sometimes people won't say anything because if I'm like the host, I feel like people get nervous
Yeah.
to not want it. So I actually end up like saying like, well, there's this and this and this wrong, or this, like, oh, this sentence is all worded weird. So I like actually start with my own negative stuff, and then they feel more comfortable. But anyway, it's kind of like a loss. But yeah, that was the best criticism I felt, because it's, even if I do want to experiment, it's nice to like think back, okay, like does this feel real to me as a writer?
Okay.
Because I think there's a balance there.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I think that's the thing as well. Like when you're writing, you're developing your own voice. So it's
Yeah.
great that you try different genres because I think
Yeah.
it's good to kind of keep fresh and learn things, but yeah, you
Right.
have to kind of keep the thing that makes you unique as a writer and bring
Exactly.
that across.
Exactly.
So, how many unfinished or unpublished stuff do you have kind of knocking around on your hard drive?
Um, Oh, well, it's I have some really old stuff. I've tried to like revamp stuff like Into the Dark, my book or my story in Collective Darkness was actually an older story that I pretty much ripped apart and and redid to make it into something cool. But yeah, a lot of stuff. Yeah, I have a lot of poetry. Like when I'm in like the mood, I'm just like, oh, I just need to write this out. I have like ideas that I've written down. Um, I have two novels just like floating on my stuff. Like they're both finished, except for like one was the Android one, and then there's this other one which is it's going to take a lot of work to get to where I want it to go because that was before that was both like that one especially is that one had a lot of the um like some cool ideas that I ended up bringing in later to other stories and stuff.
Okay.
But it's yeah, it's just like it's just older writing. It's you develop more or like the momentum. Like I get this inspiration, I'm really good in the first like so many pages or something, and then like it falls, right? So it's like trying to avoid that kind of stuff. And also I'm just fatigued. I'm like, I don't want to do those two right now. I have my other stuff. But uh so I have a bunch of like short stuff and just like poems just like lying around. But only two novels for the moment.
Only
Other
t-
than the two I'm
yeah, yeah, yeah. So what is the? I suppose like we've all had kind of had that bit where we get to a bit where we're just like, how do I write this thing, right?
Yeah.
You have this idea, and it's like, I don't, I know what I want to do, but I'm just not
Yeah.
sure how to actually do it. So, but what has been like is there anything that stands out in your head that's like, man, that was a really just hard scene or a hard part to write for whatever reason?
Well, so I was actually getting so in my story, so the fiction story, it's like kind of like a 1984 like revamped version, like there with Fahrenheit 450. There's like a lot of things in it, but so it's like very kind of like dystopian in a way. But the I was having a really good time making and writing it and stuff. But I did get in this like weird slump because I wanted this idea to work, and it didn't work. I think it's just whenever I have writer's block, I think it's because there's a part of you that doesn't believe that thing. So, and I found that idea, some a good author friend of mine who had actually said that before, and I've actually used that to like whenever I had writer's block, it's like, oh, does this actually like make sense for my story? Like the scene, it's the two characters are like fleeing this one like they're fleeing their lives with their lives, but they have to like use this car, and this car like because it's like slightly futuristic. It had a maybe I'll use this one day and hopefully no one steals it. They'll probably all steal it when I'm saying it. But it's like and I like a fingerprint thermal heat type car where it's like you like sit in and then it can like register you, right? And I really liked that idea and I really wanted it to work, and it just wasn't working, not for the fact that it was the invention, but it was just the characters, like it just didn't make any sense. But so I had to like step away and actually had to cut out like 10 pages because I'm like, this just gonna have to take out, like this just doesn't work. But it actually is flowing really nicely now. So
That's
yeah.
good. That's good. It's funny when you get just hit on an idea that you're like, I have to use this thing. It's like
Yeah.
I have to use it.
Yeah.
I was talking to
So
someone recently about Lord of the Rings, and I'm a huge
yeah.
Lord of the Rings fan. Like
Mhm.
I've got
Yeah.
I still have my copy of The Hobbit that I got when I was 7. And I
Oh,
know
that's
I was
awesome.
7 because I wrote my age in
Ah,
it, right? And I got the same copy of The
oh,
Lord
that's
of
so
the Rings.
cool.
Yeah, I was a huge nerd,
Oh,
like,
that's so cool.
and and
Yeah,
I,
no,
yeah,
it's great.
I have the same
Nerds are
copy of
the best.
yeah, exactly, exactly. That's what I think. And I've got the same copy of the Lord of the Rings that I had, but since I was 9. So I used to read it once a year. I'd read The Hobbit, then I'd read The Lord of the Rings, and then I'd read The Silmarillion when I kind of got to a teenager. And the first time I read that, I was like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, what is this? I don't understand the word that's going on in this, but that's fine."
No.
Um, But I was talking to someone about the other day, and it was like, because like Tolkien was like a writer that would, he was pretty much a discovery writer as well. But he'd write to the point where he'd get
Right.
stuck, and then he'd just get rid of everything and then start again from scratch and just keep writing, just do that way, scrap things and
Yeah.
write things, which is crazy when you think about it, isn't it?
Wow.
But there's a bit in the Lord of the Rings at the start. You've read Lord of the Rings, and
Yeah.
the bit where the hobbits like leaving the Shire, but in the books they go and buy a house in Crick Hollow and they move house for a
Yep.
little while and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And they're just on the road, and then this like it just switches to, like a wandering POV for a
Yeah. It
second.
was weird.
Fox. Do you know the bit
Yeah.
when it's a fox and the fox is like four hobbits on the road? That's very strange, isn't it? And
Yeah. That I remember that. I was like, oh, I haven't read that, like the Lord of the Rings, the first one, or that because that's the one with that's Frodo and Bilbo, no, or not Bilbo, but Frodo, and they're going off now. This is Lord of the
yeah,
Rings book one, right?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He did things like that. He did that in The Hobbit as well. Like he would
Mm.
change perspectives, and I'd be like, why are you doing this?
Yes.
I don't
Well,
like
like,
it.
the bit with the fox, it's so weird because it doesn't do it again in the whole of the book. It never happens,
Yeah,
and and
yeah.
and it's just like, and he even says like, "Well, it's strange, the four hobbits going off. You don't see that very often." And then he says, "I wonder where they're going," and then it says, "And the fox never found out." And so it was like he must have been like, "I love this idea, I love it, and I'm keeping it." Right?
And the publishers are probably like, what are you doing?
Yeah. The editor was like, the fox bit, it has to. And he's like, no, you can get rid of anything else, but the fox bit is important to me. And it's
Okay,
like,
I do have to admit that, like, there are, so being a publisher and editor, there are times when people will hold on to like certain, they'll be almost married to certain like sentences or endings or beginnings or anything like that, and you're just like, why? This is not that important. It doesn't change your story. Like, because you just get so stuck on this idea that you're like, no, it has to be this way, and it's just like, I mean, no, like, and I'm like, no, I don't agree. But if it's, I guess if this is what you really love, we'll keep it. But
yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Well, next time that happens, just think of Tolkien and the fox. And
Okay,
I'd
I
be
will.
like, well, he got the fox in, so
That's true. I think actually so I know I'm one of those people who loves to highlight, make notes in their stories. And let's see, I have it's far away, so never mind. But I was gonna grab it, but maybe I'll take a picture because I think I bet you I have that highlighted or like dog tail because or dog eared because I love my books. Except for when they're fancy and then I don't do anything with them. But if they're like paperback, I'm like, yeah, let's love this to pieces.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I probably actually wrote something in that. So it's funny that you brought that up.
Yeah, it always just pops into my head, and it's just when you said that
Yeah,
about the thermal car, it's like I love this idea. It's
yeah,
like we all have it, we all have this thing that's like, oh
yeah.
man, this is
It's
just the
so
best.
cool. Yeah, and it's and they are cool ideas, but it's like, how is it progressing your story? I have to like I have to put on my editing hat and stop being a writer, and it's like I have to almost teach myself like, Liz, what is this doing for you? And like, because I'll get that same thing where, like we with the thermal car and like even endings or beginnings where I'm just like, no, it has to be like this. But then it's like, why does it have to be like this?
Okay.
Does it, like, and then like when I tried to like answer that question, it's like, wait a minute, it doesn't. I just liked it in the beginning, but now like after reading it, it's like, oh, actually maybe that isn't the best. And so
Yeah. How hard is it for you to do that too? Because obviously you don't just edit for your publishing house that you have. You edit for other people too. You do.
yeah,
I mean, you do a
yeah,
whole range of things for people.
yeah.
So how hard is that to do that for yourself when you're writing? To say, I'm going to switch back to my editing brain and just look at what I've done, because I mean I edit for people too, and I find it much easier editing for other people than I do for myself. And not just like the things that ideas that I like,
Right.
but just generally even line edits. Like I'll go through something and I'll show it to someone else. They'll be like, "How did you miss this stuff?" I'll be like, "I don't know." That's why I'm showing it to you.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. I feel like you can never you can never just be your own editor. I think that if you publish something, you should always at least have one other pair of eyes. because yeah, you'll things, you'll get used to it. You won't see the plot hole maybe. So I totally get that. I think with me is if I'm like not in the writing mood, because I have this like OCD, I think, with the mentioning, where it's like you I have to edit every single, or I have to write every single day, and if I don't, I'm like in a bad mood for, like, I'm just like, oh, like, it don't feel good. I don't know. I'm like weird. But if I'm not in the writing mood, if I can't like make words, because yeah, some days it really is hard. I'll do editing. Because sometimes if I'm writing, I won't even think about editing, because I'll get in this never ending cycle. But I'll go through some editing and just and what I do is I'll sometimes read it out loud, because your mind will force you to say all, like, well, if you're reading line by line, you'll see all the problems if you're trying to automatically fix it. Or
Mhm.
you can be, if you're tired of speaking, like sometimes I'm like tired and, I wake up and I don't want to even say words, because, I haven't had my tea or my coffee. And yeah, I drink green tea every day. It's, yeah, because I'm a weirdo. But I have, this robot lady. I'll like go on to like those speak or text to speech things,
Oh
and then
yeah.
I'll have her read it to me, and then it forces me to like listen, and then I'm like, oh, this sounds like, this sentence sounds strange. I have to look back, and maybe I won't know immediately like why it sounds strange. And
Mhm.
sometimes I even have to have a friend look at it, but like I'll catch things. I'll at least know, like I can highlight it and be like, there's something wrong with this, and I don't know
Oh,
what
yeah.
it is, but
That's interesting. I never thought about doing that with the speak to text thing, because that is because I would
yeah,
read things back out to myself, but even then, I'll kind of
yeah,
fill in words, I think. But
yep.
yeah, that's interesting. A famous Irish writer um, called Ken Bruen, he does like crime fiction, which is quite unusual for an island, because like a lot of
Oh, cool.
Irish, yeah, a lot of Irish stuff is like literary fiction. Still, that's the kind of the main thing
Yeah.
in Ireland. But he does this series called
Yeah.
Jack Taylor, which is on Netflix as well. They turned it into a TV series, and it was actually he's based in Galway, where I am.
Oh,
So
cool.
you kind of see him around sometimes, and you see when they were filming the TV series, you saw them filming
Oh,
the TV
cool.
series. But I was at a thing with him. I was reading at something, and he was one of the judges for it. And I was talking to him after, and
Mhm.
he was like, he was like, oh, yeah, he brings out a book a year. Like he's in his 80s now, and he's been writing since the 70s, right? He brings out like a book a year or whatever,
That's awesome.
sometimes 2 books a year. And he was like, so I said to him, like, what
Wow.
do you do? How do you write so fast? And he was like, I get up in the morning, I write 2 pages every day, right? And then I get a dictaphone and I just read it back to myself. And then I go off and do whatever I'm doing for my day, right?
Yeah.
And then at night time, the last thing he does before he goes to bed
Yeah.
is he listens to what he's read or he's written, sorry. And he's like, if I like it, then the pages survive. And if I don't like it, I just get rid of the pages and do another 2 pages next day.
Oh,
But
cool.
he was like, if I do 2 pages a day, every day, 365 days a year, like he's like, that's like he said, that's enough for days. Like it's about 180,000 words or something. He said he said that's 2 books. It's like
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yeah.
But so yeah, the diction thing is interesting. Is it weird having the robot voice talk to you?
Well, yes and no. So my mom and I have this weird thing. I don't think most people could handle it, but so one of the things I do with book reviews is like I'll read. I love to read,
Mhm.
but sometimes if I get too many books, or if I get a lot of ebooks, I'll have, or like if I audiobooks, like I'll do audiobooks and ebooks and print. But if I have a lot of ebooks and I need to get through a whole bunch, I turn on my robot lady and on the Kindle, and she'll speak to me. And my mom and I both do this thing, and we don't really care. And so it's kind of the same thing. And it's just like, yeah, I don't really like. The thing is I love a good narrator. Like a good narrator makes a story. Like it's fantastic. Like having that. And honestly, a bad narrator is, I can't even finish a book if it's a bad narrator. Or if I am finishing it for like a book review or something, I am really forcing myself to finish it. But if it's the robot, like she's neutral. I don't even care. I'll just like read it, and it doesn't even matter. Like it doesn't bother me as much as a bad narrator, which is
Okay.
very strange. And this is the same thing with my mom too. And so I wonder, it's like maybe it's some like auditory thing that I inherited from her or something. Because
It makes sense.
we'll go on like trips and like listen to like robot ladies, and it's, I don't know, it's weird.
It kind of makes sense in a way because like yeah, as you say, it's a neutral voice, so they can't read it good or bad. Yeah, yeah, I get that. Whereas like if you get someone who's just reading it completely wrong, you're like, oh no, just stop.
Yeah, it's like hurting you.
Yeah. Is that something that you would be seeing yourself doing in the future? Because I mean, obviously you like to get involved in everything to do with writing. Would you do narrating yourself?
I've thought about it. I think it would be something that I would love to do in the future. It's I've seen it takes a lot of work. Like just with the Collective Darkness audiobook, there we had Ashley Bigby. She was the audio engineer, and we had like 4 narrators, and we did it because we wanted to like really experiment with different sounds and see how that is. And maybe it would be easier just having one person doing it all. So maybe, but I've seen like it does take a lot of time and like recording things. Like I actually have recorded 2 stories for this one podcast. It was the Night's End podcast.
Okay.
And one of them's out. Another one is coming out soon, I believe. If it hasn't, I haven't been alerted to if it's out yet. But that's really nice. But it is kind of frustrating me, like, do it wrong. So because I read a lot, like in my my live book readings, and if I'm recording something, I get more like like, oh no, it has to be perfect. So if I do one thing wrong, so actually when I mess up on my lives, I just have to like pretend it doesn't happen and just like go through because it does bother me a lot. But I'm getting better, which is nice, doing like one through without any slips. But like recording it, like I do want it to be like perfect. And so I think I would have to be okay with like a balance. And also I'd need like really good audio equipment, but maybe I would do that in the future.
I like your live readings. I mean, I've seen it. I think you're really good. Yeah, I think you're really good.
Good.
Like, I'll have to watch out for the next time where you think you've made a mistake, and I'll just be like, I can see it. I can see it.
I know. I like one time I made, and the most funny. So I say words wrong. People make fun of me. I don't know what is wrong with me, because I'll know if something's wrong, or sometimes I don't even know. Like I'll just have read it and like not know how it's said. And then sometimes I'll use like archaic ways of saying it. Like most people say. So I have dry skin. I live in Utah, so I have eczema. And it's it's just something where it's just like extra dry skin, right? Mm-hmm. But I say eczema, but everyone else says eczema, and I'm like, no, that's wrong. And they always say that I'm wrong, and it's funny. But also like present and present, I'll like switch them in my live readings, which is and I'll like say weird words sometimes. I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like I can barely do accent.
Oh yeah, well, I'm not so bad with the accents, but we're very similar with that, because I will just say a word completely. I will just make up a completely different word for something, how it sounds sometimes, and I'm just like, why did I say that? But
you just have to like move on. You're just like, okay, I guess accepting it.
Yeah. I was even doing a live read from my own book, which is coming out soon. Obviously it's a fantasy one, so there's like words in it that aren't real, and the ones that I've made up myself. And I was saying one of them, and someone in the comments were like, "You're pronouncing that wrong," and I was like, "I invented this." But then I was thinking about it, and I was like, I probably am pronouncing it wrong. Yeah, and I was like, am I pronouncing it wrong? Probably that I am pronouncing it wrong. But that's one of the big things. I mean, you're a fantasy fan as well, and one of the big things that's fun about fantasy fandoms is how people pronounce things. Because I'm a big Wheel of Time fan, and there's obviously the TV series this year, and the thing that people are going to be arguing about the most is when the TV show comes down on how something is pronounced, because there's no one agrees with any of it. And like I sometimes I have a Wheel of Time podcast, and I go on to other like Wheel of Time shows, and everyone's pronouncing something different, like the same thing. But I suppose that's
Oh,
the
that's so
time when you've made
frustrating.
it, when you have people arguing about something that you've written and how you've pronounced it. It's like, well, I've made it.
Yeah. Well, and it's I bet you with like the Wheel of Time, like I forget the author's name, but he's gone, so he can't even be like, no, this is how it is
Yeah,
pronounced. Like,
that's
so
right.
that's the
That's
only
right.
thing.
Well,
But English is hard, English is weird.
English is hard.
So
It is hard.
yeah.
It's really hard. Yeah, there's recordings of Robert Jordan who wrote The Wheel of Time. There's recordings of him
Uh,
pronouncing some stuff, and people are like, he's wrong. Right?
it's like what?
That's not how you pronounce it, and it's like, oh, fair enough. That's fine. So, what before we go, where can people listening and watching? Where can they find you? Because I'm going to put all your links below for everything
Oh,
that
yeah.
you do anyway. But like, where
Awesome.
if someone wanted to reach out to you to like avail of your editing services, or you reviewing or
Yeah.
anything at all, where are you mostly to be found?
Yeah. So I'll tell you a few things. So
Ooh,
the first one is my Instagram. You can find me and you can just message me. I'm happy to talk to anyone. I'm always on. It's Elizabeth Suggs author. That's Elizabeth Suggs author. Yeah, it's like Uggs with an S. Yeah, I know. I have to always like spell it out because people will say it wrong. So Elizabeth Suggs author, and then my editing services like book reviews. Like I do a lot of blog book reviews, and you can actually find my Instagram on my website as well. So if you get confused, but it's editingme.com. That's editing mee.com. And then you can also find, if you want to submit to stuff, like we have Collective Visions, which is a sci-fi anthology seeking submissions. There is a Collective Chaos, which is a dystopian anthology seeking submissions, and then Collective Humanity, which is an LGBTQ charity, LGBTQ plus charity anthology. And that you can find all those and like more at ctpfiction.com. That's C is in collective, T is in tales, P is in publishing, fiction.com. So,
awesome. Well,
so
thank
yeah,
you so
so
much.
you can find me any of on all of those places. You can contact me there. Yeah.
Everywhere. Great stuff. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yes.
It's been a pleasure to talk to you and to get to know you better. And thanks for taking some time out of all the things that you do to come and talk to me as well.
Yes. Yes. I had a fun time. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. So yeah, so all the links will be below for Instagram, for the website, for Twitter, all these places, everything below. Please check out
Yes.
everything that she does. Like if it's the first time coming across Elizabeth, the Collective Tales is a brilliant anthology. Sorry, Collective Darkness. Your Instagram is like always. There's always something going on there and everything. So
Yeah.
as you can see, she's such a vibrant, bubbly person. So it's good. Thanks very much, and hopefully you'll come on again another time in the
Oh,
future.
I would love to.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.